Again, let's start.
All right, but
Actually,
yes,
let's start.
let's
Sorry,
start
sorry,
off.
go on.
I was gonna say, gentlemen, the recording is live now. Welcome to Popocast number 8. I'm joined here today with my friend Jonas from
Wow,
the
today.
land of Denmark. We are all doing good here. Shane's in the chat. Welcome, Shane. We got some cool topics today, I think, that we'll look into. But today's pretty much
Hmm.
a big free talk session as well. So, how you
I
doing
feel like
today,
that's
dude?
this podcast in a nutshell, but it's fine. It's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. Today, I mean, I kind of just slept until like 3 p.m. and then I played with my friends all day, and then I played like Mario Party and shit. So it's been fine, you know. Drank some white wine, did some auto chess, some Dota Underlords, you know. Good
Nice.
time. Good time.
So
What
my
about you? You played some Genshin Impact?
Yeah, I played Genshin. I woke up at noontime. I went out for a run today. It was beautiful out. Yeah, very productive day today. I was gonna ask you, what program did you use for the Mario Party 6? Like,
This is a Dolphin emulator, you
oh,
know? It
yeah,
it emulates Wii and then it emulates GameCube, right? And you can put GameCube games into it, and then you can use NetPlay to play with people.
that play. Okay,
Um,
I want to set that up
yeah,
because I've used Dolphin in the past. It's a good program, so yeah,
yes.
I want to look at that.
No, I
Yeah.
was actually thinking about speedrunning Mario during this as like a visual thing, but I wasn't gonna do it. But I used it for no wait, I don't use that. What am I talking about? I used Project 64 for that. That's a 64 game. Never mind. Don't
Yeah,
know what I'm talking about. But I
yeah.
mean, if you want to play Sunshine, you can use that. You know.
You can use Dolphin, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't
Okay.
know, but
I'm just curious. Yeah.
I mean, you've done some research for this podcast. You know,
I
some content prepared.
I happen to have done a little bit. I don't want to brag or anything. I'm just kidding.
You read a fucking article,
I
bro.
read one
Chill.
article. I literally glanced through it. I'm just glancing through it as we're working on
Yeah.
Popocast stuff.
No worries, no
Um,
worries, no worries. That's more research than me, so you know.
hey, let's go, dude. Yeah, I mean, we could get into that real quick if we want. The article I can pull up here. Let me share screens, gentlemen. So
Oh,
Korea,
so I need to change the
yeah,
thing, right?
yep.
Wait. Tell me when you're about to do it.
I'm gonna do it right now. So I need to change
Okay.
this real quick, gentlemen. We're gonna hit that BRB real quick. We're gonna share screens. 1 second.
Oh, I don't use
Um.
that screen. I just fucking go.
Oh my God.
I just raw dog it, dude. I just switch between the screens.
Uh, the beast. Hold on. Why can't I not do it?
Beast. The beast from the west, dude.
The beast from the
Oh
yeah, the
wait.
west. The
Oh,
beast
I
from the
guess I'm from
east.
the east.
The beast from the east.
It sounds weird to call me from the east when I'm from Europe, dude. Like,
Yeah, that is pretty weird.
because when but do you not say the east in like, I guess you do in the U.S., right? But it sounds kind of weird because like if you talk about Japan,
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't that be in the west of you? But it's not in the west. It's because it's an eastern country. Because like Eurocentrism, right?
I think
That's
so.
kind of weird. I guess it's
Click
kind of
like
sound weird to
this.
call Japan the east when you're like way closer west.
Yeah, I
But I
don't
guess
know.
you do.
It's
Oh, there you go. Video share.
We're good. All right.
All right. Yeah,
Where's
yeah,
my
yeah.
article? It's hold on. Very prepared right now.
Dude, I'm gonna just do the thing where I plug the stream.
All
I'm
right.
plugging the stream.
Yeah, plug it in. Plug in whatever you got to do.
I'm plugging it in your Discord.
Sure. Shane, hopefully you're doing well today, dude. Welcome, welcome. Okay. So what we got here, gentlemen. So we talked about this on last podcast. Essentially, South Korea, they had a mandatory test for all foreigners living in the country, mandatory COVID testing. Uh,
Right,
Big outcry from this. Everyone was kind of just upset, pissed off, big uproar,
right.
basically. So they
From
ended
the
up
foreigners.
from the foreigners themselves. So they ended up
Yeah.
scrapping that idea quite recently, and right now they're only recommending to do the tests at bars
Mm,
and factories and stuff. But beforehand, it was completely mandatory. They said if you don't get this test done within so and so time, I think it was like a week or something, we're gonna give you this like $1 million won fee. Um, Sounds good. Um, Sorry. Um, and
what's happening,
so
bro?
my mother walked in. We're getting the food orders, gentlemen. Um, Excuse me though. So yes, that is all set. They scrapped the plan. I'm pretty happy about that. I mean, I think like I'm not
True,
gonna lie.
true.
In my opinion, I think foreigners have it pretty decent in Korea. Obviously, there's certain like cultural issues that people talk about.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I
It's a
don't
hard
know if I
topic.
agree
That's a
with that. I
topic.
don't know if I
Yeah,
agree with that, dude.
of course. We can talk
Let's talk
about
about
this.
that. Let's talk about that real
Of
quick.
course, of course.
So I was talking to Paul recently about like visas, right?
Hmm.
And is this an English version of daily Korean news? No, because we don't talk about relevant news. We talk about stupid news, okay? There's
Yeah.
a big difference between talking about stupid news and talking about, relevant news. Although this is actually relevant for once, but
Hmm.
usually it's just, stupid shit.
Hmm.
Anyways, I think here's the deal. I was talking with Paul the other day, and that was about the stuff that I was talking to you about, like income and visas and stuff, right?
Yep. Okay.
And I think foreigners have a fucking horrible time in Korea. And I'm not talking about like their actual experiences. I'm talking about actually getting there and living there, right? Because here's the
Okay.
thing about Korea, okay? Why do you think that in other countries like Denmark, people make food at their home? And in Korea, it's like, oh, let's just eat ramen, you know? Like, why do you think 7-Elevens and shit are so like big, right?
Hmm.
It's not because it's like some culture that's great where it's like, oh wow, we can get all this like instant food from Korea. It's literally just because no one has time to cook food. And that's a bad thing, right? Like, sure, it's like a good thing that's come out of a bad thing, right? But at the end of the day, it's like this horrible system where people work their ass off for like 60 hours a week or some shit like that. And they
Hmm.
get paid less
Hmm. No, so
than they
that I
should.
agree with. I think we're talking about like different aspects. So like I totally agree
Right.
with you on that. I think they don't have it good in that factor. Um,
Mm.
I totally
But
agree,
that's
100%.
everyone. That's everyone. That's everyone.
That is everyone, right? I was thinking of more of like if a foreigner wanted to do like daily life stuff in Korea, like me, like as an American, if I wanted to do simple things like order coffee, do karaoke, go to a bar, go to a
Mm.
club, hike a mountain. I think like foreigners like I feel like they have an easy time interacting with Korean
Well,
people. I
okay.
can't talk about that like
Okay.
with high authority though, you
Okay,
know.
I want to say that I think that's also very racially based because I know that if you're black, it's a lot worse, right?
Mhm.
Like, because it's like the whole thing about in Korea, they're going to be more racist than they are going to be in US or Europe because it's just such a like homogenous society, right?
Mhm. Absolutely.
So there's and there's just these stereotypes that are gonna be there no matter what, right? So if you're a black dude, you might be declined from going into clubs, right? And at the same time, if
Mhm.
you're a white dude, you're gonna get advantages that you don't get if you're like just a Korean person or whatever.
Mhm.
Uh,
Totally. Yeah. That is a great aspect you've shined some light on.
you're such a good partner, dude. All you do is be like, yeah, I really enjoy like I agree with that completely, and I agree,
Mhm.
and that was so good.
Yeah, well, I I mean, I think it's true, right? Like now that
Mm,
you've brought that up, like, different there's different groups of people that are going to be treated differently. I mean, it absolutely is what do you call it? It's a very you know,
homogenous?
homogenous, thank you. I don't know why I couldn't think of the term.
Yes.
Very homogenous society.
Ethnically.
Yeah,
Ethnically, yeah.
ethnically. Yes. And unfortunately, like at its core, I think like certain groups are gonna have disadvantages and they'll have advantages, stuff like that. You know.
Mm.
So I don't know. I guess I'm kind of going back on my word. It's very subjective. It's
I
how
think here's the thing about Korea, right?
yeah.
If you if you're in a good position, it's kind of like the US, right? If you're economically safe and shit, then healthcare isn't going to be big issue, right?
Hmm.
But if you aren't, then it's going to be an issue. And the same in the US. Like, if I like, because I was talking with Paul about this about visas, right? And he was like, you shouldn't like plan to live there forever because visas can change anytime.
Hmm.
But then I was like, yeah, but my job gives me a high salary in a sector that is really big in Korea and it's very sought after, right?
Hmm.
As opposed to like being a teacher, an English teacher, right?
Hmm.
An English teacher is something that's like quite low paid in Korea, and you get like living built into that, but you're
Hmm.
still making a low wage, right? Meanwhile, I'm making the opposite scale. I'm making like I would make a lot of money, right?
Hmm.
Relative to like an English teacher.
Hmm.
So if you're a foreigner trying to apply for a visa, it's 100 times easier to apply for a visa if you have a high income as opposed to having a low income. If you have because even the point you get when you apply for F27 visa, which is the long-term residence visa, which is basically when you're going to search for if you don't have a company that you're signed with, and even if you have a company you're signed with, it's better. It's in some situations it would be better to have this because you can change company without being locked in, right? Because if you go to Korea and you have a visa for like locked to a company, it's very hard to get another company to sign you, and they have all the advantage when they're in the process, right? But if you have an F27 visa, if you leave your company, you can still stay in the country.
Hmm.
But the problem is that a lot of the points, it used to be that you got like if you had 10 million or more in wage, you got 1 point, 20, you got 2, blah blah blah, all the way up to 100 million Korean won. And 100 million Korean won is how much? It's
Um,
what like 100,000, I guess.
a
Is
hundred
that how it
million.
works?
Wait, isn't 100 million won $10,000?
It's 9,000. It's 90,000. It's 9,000. So if you make 90,000 a year, you would get 10 points, okay? If you get 90,000 points now, you get like 60 or 70 points.
Mm-hmm.
So they changed it to be way more focused on wage, which means that the direction that they're going is that if you have a degree that's in science, because you get 20. So I think I would get if I had a bachelor's in like arts, I would get 25 points. If you have a bachelor in science, you have 27, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're really if you are a person who works like, I mean, let's just say me, right? Working in tech, making a high wage, and working in a niche subject and has a bachelor of science,
Mm-hmm.
then those are like the opposite scale of working as like an English teacher, having a like a degree in arts, and working minimum wage, right? And that's what you're gonna do as an English teacher in Korea. Like that's just the sad fact of it,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a very sought after thing, and especially nowadays where Korea is becoming much more popular. Like I'll say the last 2 years is probably when Korea's grown the most
Yeah,
internationally,
definitely exploded
and
2 3
it's
years. Yep.
yes, and its image. And I can see that in Impulse Stream and stuff like that, where people are coming to learn Korean because they like K-pop and shit, and it's very weird because they
It
have
is
like
weird.
this they have because here's the thing, when I learned
Mm-hmm.
Korean, I learned it from a standpoint of like wanting to learn a foreign language that was very different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think this is very different from most people, but when I decided to learn Korean, which was like, oh my God, I don't want to say it's 5 years ago, but it's probably 4 years ago.
Okay.
Uh, and I obviously like I didn't know how to do it correctly or anything like that. I just learned Hangul, which is the Korean alphabet,
Yep.
and that's it. And some very simple stuff. And then I like held a break for like 2 years, and I did a little bit, and then only March 2020 is when I really started again. Um, but I did it because I wanted to learn a language that was very different. And
Mm.
it turns out that a lot of languages are, there's a thing called colonialism. Don't know if you heard about it. Uh, it kind of changed a lot of languages. Like if you go to like Nigeria, it's like the biggest language is English, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I just wanted to learn a language that was very different. And and then there's like Chinese, Japanese, Korean, like these types of languages. And Korean is arguably the easiest one to start writing because I've seen these videos of people who learn Japanese, but they don't know to learn how to write kanji, and then they go to the country, and I want to be able to go to a country and be able to like do everything, right? I don't want to be stuck not understanding how to read anything, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So that's why I chose Korean. But a lot of people who are starting now are starting as a result of like
Yeah, K-pop, K-drama.
K-pop, K-drama, stuff
Yeah,
like that,
stuff
right?
like that, right? And it's kind of like it's different. It's very different because
Mm.
I'm in the same boat as you. Like I started learning it purely from like I thought the language was cool. I also thought like the society and stuff in Korean food and whatnot. It was kind of cool. So I got interested in
You
that.
m- I think you should say
Yeah,
the culture instead of society because society makes it sound
society.
like
Yeah, sorry,
you
culture.
like because when
I
you say
love Korean
society to
society,
me,
which yeah, that's so weird.
it sounds like you love
I
like a
love
really hierarchical society where it's like everyone is super nice to like old people and teachers and shit.
yeah, Korean culture.
I mean,
Sorry, my
I'm
apologies.
not saying you shouldn't be nice to old people, but it's very hierarchical. It's like you can never say anything like because in Denmark it's the exact opposite, right? I feel like Denmark is like one of the countries in the world where it's the most flat. Like if I work at a company and I disagree with my boss, I can tell him I disagree. But in
Mhm.
Korea, it's like you don't say that, okay? Because
Right.
that's not how that works,
That's
right?
absolutely.
The boss has the absolute final say. In
Mhm.
Denmark, it's like you might disagree with your boss, and he might be like, "Yeah, that's true, but we're gonna do it like that anyways," and you agree with it. But you can at least express why you disagree with a decision. In Korea, it's a lot less like that. It's a lot more like just an abs. It's a lot more like a monarchy, you know.
Mhm.
Like sure, we might have a monarchy in Denmark, and they might have a republic, but their fucking companies is run like a fucking or like autocratic like fucking government. So
Right.
I mean, I
Exactly.
don't know.
Yeah.
So I think that's the difference, and I feel like a lot of people are starting to learn the language in a way where it's a lot. They're not maybe in tune with the requirements to learn the language, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Cause like I've noticed this too, like plenty of times over like Twitch or something, or people that I meet on Twitch, they get
Mm.
they get like focused on learning Korean. They get excited and stuff. They say, "Oh, I'm gonna learn from these new K-pop songs. I'm gonna learn from these K-dramas. I'm gonna learn Korean that way." And like I think you can learn Korean from that way, like a little bit. But like I don't know, I think they stray away from like the core concepts of how the language actually works, and
Right.
that's where they're gonna kind of start seeing like problems with the language. They're gonna have like problems learning if they're using like purely just K dramas or like songs alone. Like
Yes,
yeah,
I agree. But how do you make a central authority to, or like how do you make something to? Because obviously
right.
there's like talk to me Korean.
Yep.
There's how to study Korean. But I
Yes,
feel like that maybe doesn't take the approach of like the casual person in the same way.
it
Like, do you
doesn't.
understand what I mean?
Absolutely. I think, in my opinion, how to study Korean.com goes like it's pretty like hardcore. It's pretty cut and dry
Mm.
material. Um, I
It's
like Go
useful.
Billy.
If you do
Yeah.
that, it's way better than trying to learn how to like do like how to learn sentences that are useful.
Hmm.
But it's very hard. Like, how do you bridge the gap? How do you bridge the gap between people not knowing what to do and going how to study Korean? Because no one's gonna go to how to study Korean and start learning like all the vocab and stuff. Like, no one's gonna go do that,
Yeah.
realistically speaking.
Absolutely. I mean, I
But I
went
don't know
there.
how to bridge the gap.
So bridging the gap, that's the most important thing, right?
We have Memrise. Memrise is a good tool.
Memrise is
It bridged the
great.
gap for me. It bridged the gap for Paul. And look, we're it's a lot more. We're a lot more hardcore now than we were back then, I would say.
I would agree. I agree with that.
But I don't know. I feel like maybe it's the
So,
problem is that you probably want to do a platform that's phone and thing, right? And Memrise does that well.
mhm.
But I feel like there's still a barrier because you have to start it,
So I like
and that's
Anki the
like
best. I think
no,
Memrise is a
Anki's a
great
bit
tool.
hardcore, but it's hardcore because it takes a lot of setup and stuff, right?
Hmm. What's
And if you
nice,
have if you have an iOS phone, then you have to pay for it. That's
which
also
is
another
dumb. That's a
barrier.
big barrier. I have
Yeah,
Android, thankfully, and Anki has been a big help with
Anki
me.
Droid is really good. Anki Droid is really good.
Absolutely, absolutely. I use
I
that all
agree.
the time at my work. I
Yes,
use the desktop version when I'm streaming and stuff, and then I sync up my vocab and I sync it on my phone, and when I'm on the go, it has the same exact data. It's great. It's perfect. Anki is probably one of the
yes,
best tools in my opinion. I think it's
I agree.
honestly, I think it's 4 times better than Memrise. I think Memrise is really good, right?
That was a very a precise number that you calculated right there.
I was doing the
The-
calculations, but yeah, 4 times.
yeah,
It's
about
Anki is
3.76 to
carry the
4.87.
two, divide it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. I've had a lot more success with Anki because I did
I
memorize
agree.
back when I first met Paul, and my results were okay, but I was hoping
Mm.
for better, and I've had a lot better results on Anki. But to
But how do you bridge the gap? Because at the same time, you can't expect people to do Anki from the start. Also, because
mhm.
Anki in itself is not motivating because you need to be able to use it, right? Which is where how to study Korean comes in a place where memorize and all that can't,
Just
because you're
grammar.
able to combine grammar and vocab,
Hmm.
right? So how do you combine that? Because there's another way of combining vocab and grammar, and that's Duolingo, and that is not effective at all.
Right. Yeah, we've definitely looked at
So
Duolingo. We know that's not effective, really. Um,
so how do you do that? How do you combine them in a successful way?
I've had trouble with that. In my opinion, you do Anki, you do memorize for that core vocab, And then for your grammar, you look at a nice solid grammar book. I've been looking at Go Billy's materials, and you try to throw that into Anki as well. It is harder to throw into Anki because grammar is more about understanding how it works, whereas vocab is it's just a word. It's just something you need to throw in your head, you know.
I
So
feel like you need a holistic thing
mhm,
that is easy to get into, but has the same approach as Anki, you know? Because here's the problem with Anki is that you don't get people into like if people are really motivated, they'll start doing Anki, but I think like 75% jump off before that. But if you have some way to just teach 20 words and then teach like the grammar and
grammar with
stuff
it.
in like a one thing. Because the problem is if you ask people to do all this shits, download Anki, start doing it, use How to Study Korean, read the stupid fucking because How to Study Korean has horrible actually like the content is set up really bad.
It is.
So how do you set up that correctly in a way like I think there just needs to be like a platform that does all of that correctly. And I feel like there's not that right now.
Hmm.
And you have to basically make guides for people to use existing tools and it might be less than optimal to do that. If you
Yeah, I agree, and I think that throws off some people when they want to start learning Korean because they're like, all right, day one, I want to start learning Korean. They learn Hangul, boom, that's easy, right? They watch videos on Hangul. Hangul's easy to
I
learn.
think you're already jumping way far ahead because I feel like people aren't learning Hangul. And I think that's the first thing they need to do because I never learned Romanizations. And whenever I read Romanizations, it's actually harder for me than reading Korean, right?
Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
think I
Romanization is so
think
hard.
actually I feel like there's not a good resource for learning Hangul. Am I wrong in that?
Um,
Because I learned with this app, but I learned with this app and it actually had like kind of wrong pronunciations for the characters. Hangul is the Korean alphabet.
yeah. I was yeah.
So I feel like there's not like what how did you learn Hangul?
I learned Hangul
Did,
through I'm trying to. It's been a while, dude. I'm trying to
yeah.
remember what I
I,
learned it through.
okay, so I just want to say I had this great experience, but it was I think it could have been more optimized, but I had this great experience with this app where you basically just learn the most like related consonants. You learn like seven or something, and
Hmm.
it just goes through. It's kind of like Anki, but not really. It just goes through them. So you learn like one, two, three, four, five, six, seven
Hmm.
of like vowels, and then you go through them all in a test, and then it comes up like, yeah, you did it, and you do the next one, next one, next one, and you do all of it together, right?
Hmm. I see.
And it works kind of like Anki in like a very rudimentary way, right? Um, the problem with that is that the app doesn't teach you the like, for example, in Korean, depending on if you're in the start of a sentence or if the preceding word ended with a vowel,
Hmm.
you pronounce the consonant differently.
Absolutely,
So, for
yeah.
example, you could say kot or got, depending if it ended on a vowel or consonant or if it's the start of a sentence. You don't learn that, but this app just said B or P, for example, right? Or K or G. It's
Hmm.
basically the sound, right? It's approximations, and I feel like it's actually probably better to learn from approximations um, than learning to say it correctly.
Hmm.
But no one will ever. There's no if you learn if you use Anki or sorry if you use Memrise and if you use How to Study Korean, you won't learn Pachim rules. Pachim rules is the rules for basically if a so basically you should need to think about Korean in syllables. And each syllable is that block that you see of characters, and a syllable will always be a character. If there's a character at the end that's a consonant, right? Then there's different rules for how you pronounce it. So, for example, if there's an S sound at the end, for example, the word for taste is mat.
Hmm.
Now it ends with an S sound, but because it's the end and it's a pachim, aka the ending consonant of a syllable, is pronounced like a D. The same with T, J, CH. All these are pronounced like a D at the end.
Hmm.
Um, because of Pachim rules, right? You don't learn these if you go through How to Study Korean, which is a good resource that I used, but
Hmm.
you don't learn them, right? I feel like you need to know people who know how to study
Hmm.
in order to learn Korean proficiently. And obviously, we're trying to set up like a network for people to do that, but
Absolutely.
it still is very difficult, in my opinion, to learn Korean because you have eight different places you need to look.
Right. There's no like one centralized location that says, here's everything, here's how it's done. You got to jump to like
Yeah.
5, 6 different things. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we like they need to work on with the resources wise. That's definitely a huge factor. Absolutely.
And,
Um,
and I think
mhm,
it's hard to justify for anyone to do that because I think that there's a lot of people who say they want to learn Korean, but when it gets to it, they might not want to.
mhm,
Like they might want to learn how to say like 안녕하세요, 감사합니다,
mhm.
stuff like that, but they don't want to learn more. And I
Right.
think, how do you get people to? Because it
Mhm.
is very addictive when you step beyond that point.
Right. You got to get to
So
that
there
point.
also
Right.
you also need to somehow lure people to do the first step, right? You need to lure people into doing the first step in terms of like learning Korean.
Yeah.
And I feel like you have to just do a holistic thing where you teach people how to say um, a couple of you can't teach them the whole like alphabet because even though that is addicting like enough for some people to get started, it's not for everyone, right? I feel like you need to find a simple sentence
Mhm.
like 밥 좋아해요 or something like that. Because like how many like 좋아 좋아해요,
Yeah.
right? So that's seven, and then
Mhm.
밥 eight. You need to learn eight characters in the Korean alphabet. You need to learn eight characters, and then you need to learn one vowel, and you need to learn seven, I guess. No, you need to learn five, three vowels and and five consonants.
Mhm.
Then you can say "I love rice" in Korean, right?
Mhm.
And you can read it, and then you can start doing new sentences like that,
Right.
and then you can do the whole alphabet, right? I feel like you have to teach part of the alphabet together with words.
Yeah. I right. Like it's like you gotta. I think you gotta make Korean learning one. You gotta make it kind of fun. You know,
Mm,
get people interested in it because if you can get these people to start saying like basic sentences, then hopefully you can get the ball rolling for them to get motivated. Because like another thing is just having general drive to learn the language. If someone, I keep using this example, but if someone's like, I love K-pop, I love K-drama, I'm gonna start learning Korean, like it's really on them, in my opinion, to see how motivated they are. Motivation is a big thing. I've had several times in my Korean language learning journey where I've like studied for let's say 4 to 5 months. After those 4 to 5 months, I get super burned out, and then I stop learning
right.
for 3 or 4 months, and I take a break. So it's like, how do you keep people interested and having fun with the language? Like that's kind of the main like question, right? So I think having one centralized resource is a big thing. Another thing is how do we keep people motivated? And I think maybe helping them make those basic sentences kind of build the blocks, so to speak, is hopefully one step
Right.
to get them closer to what they want,
You
You know.
can build it around stuff that they like, but at the same time, it's like I don't know if I want to teach people the words that are related to K-pop songs because there's a
Mhm.
lot of words. I mean, obviously, there's sometimes that are just like like 너 사랑해 and shit like that. That's obviously like very simple words, but other times it's like very poetic language that they don't actually use in practice, right?
Right.
So that's the problem with just learning from movies or from anything, is that it's the language is different depending on what resource you're using, right? I think the most accurate resource is to watch dramas because that's actually spoken language.
Hmm.
If you're listening to songs, they'll say stuff like 당신 and stuff like that.
Right. It's like,
Um,
yeah.
which is yeah, because and also they'll use like because you can't just if you used rap, for example, to learn English, you would have a weird accent because there's a lot of stuff that they say in rap songs that aren't correct, but they work well in songs, right?
Hmm.
Same you can say with Korean songs.
Right.
And if you ever read the lyrics of a song in Korean, sometimes they'll use more formal language, and sometimes they'll be less formal because it makes sense in the like in terms of the rhyming.
Right. Right.
Um, yeah.
So, you know, we'll have to see. I mean, as of right now, I think resources are still like all over the place and stuff. So, um, and it kind
The
of
problem is
sucks.
like,
Yeah. Um, I was gonna say like it kind of sucks too, right? Because we talked about how much like Korean culture is exploding right now. So many people are getting
right.
interested in it. So it's like you got this huge influx of people that are interested in Korean, but the resources are all over the place. So it makes it hard to get like really proficient at it. You got to be good at studying. That's the first thing. If you're not a
But
good
here's the
yeah,
thing. Here's
right.
the thing. If you're trying to be the initial resource that they use, you have to be very open and very free. And
Hmm.
then people are like, yeah, I'll spend 25 bucks on
Yeah,
an
I'll buy your
Anki app.
books. Right. I'll buy the app.
I'll buy your books. I'll buy your books and I'll import them from Korea for 3 times the price. I
Hmm.
bought the Korean grammar and use books. Then I saw how much they cost in Korea because they're
Hmm.
imported from Korea, I think, and they're like 4 times less.
Right. Exactly.
Like, I think the problem is the amount of money that people will use at this point, right? Like the amount of money that people will use at a later point is not, it doesn't isn't relevant. The problem is that if you're trying to establish something for people to start with, they are gonna spend the money, right? Like right now, if you told me, bro, you can learn 5,000 words in 30 days, come use my thing. Here's like fucking here's IU saying it works. I'm not saying I just yeah, but like if that happens, obviously people are gonna pay for it, right?
Hmm.
But when you tell someone, hey, you can learn how to say I like rice a lot in
Hmm.
Korean in 10 days, they're not gonna think it's impressive, you know? Because they want to learn how to say a song. And I'm gonna be honest, if I'm trying to sing a Korean song, I can sing an IU song,
Hmm.
maybe some of them, but I
Yeah.
can't fucking sing a rap. I can't do that.
Right. It's
Like,
too fast
it doesn't
paced for me.
matter. And actually, what I learned is that if you have a lot of sentences without patchim, it becomes a lot easier to sing them and rap them or whatever.
Makes
But as
sense.
soon as you have patchim, my brain is a lot slower to process it. Even though I've read a lot of Korean, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. I think getting better at pachim, like, it just takes time. That's why I've noticed.
It's more complex. Like if I show you a sentence that has like matcha hagi, right? That's very, very easy for you to read,
Hmm.
faster than the syllables are pronounced. But if I give you a sentence that has like masit kasoyo or something like that,
Hmm.
that is a lot more difficult because it has three pachims that are all um double consonants,
Yeah.
right? Stressed consonants. Now, if I told you Machit Kaseo, then you already know how to pronounce that and shit. And I think that's the second step. Is that when you read, if I read Machit Kaseo and I just see it, I already know what it's saying, and I don't need to process it in my brain. That's a new thing that says something I don't know, so I have to read every single syllable for itself, right? If
Hmm.
someone writes like a long word that I already know what it's gonna be by the time I read the second syllable, and I can see with the corner of my eye that it's gonna be that word. I
Yeah.
don't need to process it a lot. Um but if you read it in I don't know. I just feel like Korean.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. I just had that like when I was learning Korean and when I'm trying to do Korean songs, I just feel like Pachim is a lot more difficult to get through.
Hmm. Um.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I haven't had too much trouble with the pachim, but I don't know. I think we all like look at it from different angles. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I definitely need
right.
to work on my pachim and stuff. So, um, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I have a question real quick. Could you hear Korean in the same way as Hachu learned English? I don't think okay, so I don't know, I didn't really follow Hachu and the way she learned English, but I feel like it's maybe not the most efficient way. There's this other dude that I haven't seen him stream for a while, but he's a Korean dude that's learning English, right? And he was trying to learn English by talking to chat. And I think that's a good way to learn some things, right? Like if you want to learn what PogChamp means, you're not gonna. It's much easier to learn it by using it than to learn how to like by learning it by like going through a book or reading an article about PogChamp. Like some things you can't even explain what it means. But in other examples, like in general speech, I feel like it's just easier to just do some really boring studying. I'm sorry, but it's just true. I feel like
Hmm.
I don't know what you feel about that. I mean, we talked about Anki, obviously. That's
Yeah,
boring studying. Anki is just like it gives you the words every day, and you just have to train your brain to remember it. But I feel
yeah,
like that's just easier.
yeah. I think Anki is really good. I don't know. You've touched on this, but like learning from context, like learning from just having real life experiences. I forget what Korean girl you were talking about. What was her name? Hatsu, or I forget her name.
Yeah,
Sorry,
how to. That's
Hatsu.
shimmer, yeah.
Okay, so
Shimmer.
like I don't know how much English she's learned from just like experiencing real life English scenarios and learning words from
Mm.
contexts, but that's the number one way in my opinion to learn. If you don't have that, like, you know, if you want to learn Korean, right? Going to Korea and having real Korean experiences, talking with Korean people, buying stuff at, you know, let's say you go to like a food place, like you go to a cafe in Korea, you want to order in Korean, you can learn like words purely based off of context. I think that's one of the most important ways. If you don't have that, unfortunately, you can talk with friends. Friends can obviously help you learn. If not, you can get the raw ingredients from learning from Anki because you're getting raw
I
words.
disagree.
Yeah.
I don't think I disagree in a core sense, but I just gotta clarify some stuff. There's like this concept of passive vocabulary and active vocabulary, right? If I go to Korea and I just go into a store and I expect to learn anything from that without knowing Korean, I think that's a very stupid idea. If I study at home for 10 days, all the words that are relevant for a store, and I go to a store and I walk around and talk to people about that in Korean,
Mm-hmm.
and I know the words, all of a sudden they're gonna stick a lot in my brain. Let me just give you an example, right?
Sure.
For example, the word 어렵다, which means 어렵다 means to be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
This word was so difficult for me to remember that the way that I tried to remember it was to literally in my brain say, "Oh, 어렵다 is a very difficult word." That's literally the only way I could try to remember it, and it still didn't work. But go like 10 weeks later, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was every time I was speaking Korean to a new person, I was saying, "아, 네, 한국어 진짜 어렵다," or 진짜 어려워요,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I was using the word, and all of a sudden, 어렵다 is like the easiest word in the world to use, because when you take a word from passive vocabulary, which is like, oh, I can recollect it if I'm trying really hard to remember it, and active vocabulary is like, I don't even need to convert it to English and then to Korean, right? I can just directly think in Korean and find it, right? Let me give you an example, right? So if, for example, let's say that I'm teaching you how to say stuff in Korean,
Yep.
and I'm teaching you can say haja, to say let's do that,
Yep. Yep.
right? And so now if you go into a real situation and you've never been there before, you're gonna be like, oh, and someone says something and you say like, and you have to remember, and you're thinking, okay, I'm gonna say let's do that, and then you say haja, right?
Yeah.
But if you learn haja, right, and then you go and you go to like a working at like a I don't know, like as a tourist guide or whatever, and you say haja 2 times in a day
Mm-hmm.
for 5 days, you are never gonna forget what haja means. And whenever someone says let's do something, you don't need to think, I want to say let's do it. You just think haja, right?
Mm.
You can just think the word. And I think that's the difference between active and passive vocabulary. And I think that's the ultimate thing you can do is to actively target something you want to talk about because you don't get anything out of learning about all the words for school if you're never going to go to school in Korea, right? If I learn how to say like a grammar book, I mean, grammar book, you're going to learn how to say grammar and how to say book anyways. So that's obviously a bad example. But I don't need to learn a very specific type of book or like what like line spacing is if I'm never going to use it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm going to talk to people about learning Korean or if I'm going to talk to people about different words in Korean, it's very important for me to learn like grammatical terms. Like I need to learn how to say now, right?
Yeah.
So I think the best thing you can do is to learn specific words for specific contexts and then use them in practice, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Like
Um,
you build like you build those memories in your head. You build stories, right? Like
yes.
if you remember like someone said to you, they said like haja, and you're like, oh, I wonder what haja means, right? And then you ask them, and they
Mm,
say like, oh, haja means let's do it, you know. And then you hear him say
Yes.
haja again, you know? And then, right, like, it gets a lot easier because instead of you having to convert in your head, like, oh, I wonder what haja is. Haja, oh yeah, haja means let's do it. I'm gonna use the word haja. Here we go,
Yeah.
haja, and then you say it, right? You just say it. It's like
Right.
so like an example. It's like if someone tells you a joke, and I've used this example before. Someone tells you a joke, and you just get the joke right off the bat, and so instead of someone having to explain the joke to you, they
Hmm.
say like, I don't even know what's the joke. I can't even think of a
Right.
joke right now. But it's the same thing, right? Like
Right. Right.
so that's like really important because like
Hmm.
converting English to Korean on the fly, it
It's a
takes
lot
a.
harder.
It's so hard. It's so freaking
Yes.
hard.
I remember we went to Germany
Hmm.
for in my primary school, I guess. We don't have like a difference between like middle school and stuff like that. We just have 10 years. And then we go to high school, right? Um, but we had a trip and we had German for I think maybe 3 years now at this point. We go to Austria. In Austria they speak German, right? Um, we go to Austria, and our teacher is really good at German. Not our German teacher, she's also good, obviously,
Hmm.
but our physics teacher, she's good at German, and we're asking like, "How are you so good?" And she tells us that oh, it's just because she thinks in not Korean. She doesn't think in Korean. She thinks in
German.
German, right? If you just think in the language instead of trying to convert, that's the only way you're ever going to be like native at a language. You're not going to be native if you keep converting, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, like thinking in the language that I've noticed that really recently too. Within these last few weeks when I've been doing Anki, if you like think just almost like it sounds weird, pretend like you're a Korean person, right? Think in
Hmm.
the language, think how like a Korean person would say it, you know what I mean? Like instead of
Right.
thinking like, you want to translate the word here, the word for here in Korean is yogi, right? Like
Right.
instead of like translating, oh, I want to say, oh, I like it here. You just like you just gotta get a feel for the language. You could say like,
You can't say I like it here because
right,
here's the thing. That would be like I guess like because it is not even a thing, right?
yeah, you
It isn't a
exactly.
thing in Korean, and it is very normal in English. It's and for, but in Korean, if you're using for, there's like four different
There's
words for
different
for
ways.
depending on the context.
Yep,
But you also use the word kukot, which means this thing a lot,
yep,
because it when you say that in Korean, you're actually saying that thing that we just talked about, which is just that thing.
hmm,
But if you're thinking about converting it, okay, I'm going to convert it to Korean, that's kugot, and then I need to reorder the sentence. But if you just think in Korean, that's how you get more native in the language, obviously.
absolutely. Yeah, think in Korean.
Um,
Bottom line, think in Korean. Think in the target language you want to do.
mm,
Be around the
right,
language. Be a sponge. Absorb everything you can. That's how you're gonna get better. If you're not being a
right.
sponge, if you're not putting in the time and effort, you're not gonna see the results you want. Bottom line.
I think that's also a big thing. You can't just spend 15 minutes a day. I
Yeah.
know Duolingo. I think Duolingo tells you like if you spend 45 minutes a day, you're a hardcore, try hard learner. But it's like that's not really realistic, unfortunately. I
Hmm.
mean, you're not gonna learn as like it's kind of exponential in some sense. I'm not saying there's a limit, right? If you study 7 hours a day versus nine,
Yeah.
you're not gonna learn like 20% more
Yeah. Like.
because your brain is so fried. In March 2020 when I was learning Korean 60 words a day, if I learned 60 words in a day, I just wanted to sleep.
Mm,
I couldn't even eat food. I just wanted to sleep after that, and there's like a limit for it. But
uh,
at the same time, there's also a minimum,
yep.
and I think that minimum is at least an hour and a half. I'm not gonna lie. Like
I. Yeah.
you,
And I was gonna say I don't think a lot of people are hitting that minimum. If a lot of people say they like studying Korean a lot, and they're
Mhm.
not hitting that minimum of an hour and a half, stuff like that, they're not
Right.
gonna get better quickly. It's gonna take a lot longer. You know.
Yes, exactly. And that's motivating. Because if you're learning, let's say you learned 5 words a day, that's really not very motivating because it takes a while. And then you need to learn a grammar to use those words.
Hmm.
If you're learning 20 words a day and you're learning one grammar lesson, I feel like grammar's just much more motivating than vocab at a certain point. In the start, it's funny to learn vocab
Hmm.
But at a point, you need to like the grammar is what enables you to say new things. Like for example, I didn't a lot of grammar recently. I haven't read a grammar book for a while. A lot of grammar I learned recently is through talking to people, right?
Yep.
And I can remember it because I use it a lot. Like for example, I should or have to do something is ja to da, right?
Yep.
Um, and I didn't know that until I just asked my friend, "Oh, how do I say that?" And I used it in a context. Then I used it in another context. And then I said it three times. And if I read it in a book and wrote it down three times, I would not remember it as much as because I used it actively, right?
Right. Absolutely. You're putting that in your active space instead of it being passive. Therefore, you
Right.
know it a lot better. Right. Absolutely.
But I feel like the best way you can study grammar still is to, I think, and I'm gonna do that at some point
Hmm.
when I'm not as busy. I have this document where I write down my short version of what the grammar means. And then I write sentences, right? And
Yep.
then every day I write five sentences for each grammar point.
I like that
So
idea.
the first day I might just write five sentences, right? But here's the thing. Here's the amazing thing about doing this. You get to use all the words that you've learned in your vocab. Because when you're writing sentences, you're not just using the grammar for should, right? You're saying, "Oh, I should eat rice today," right? Then you're using the word for eat and rice, right? And you're using the grammar rules for subject, and you're using the grammar rules for object, and you're using all this shit, right? Then you're starting to learn the grammars for like something's about, which I think is like I actually can't remember this. This is
Yeah.
tum or true or tum,
For
something like that.
about.
I think
Yeah.
like
Uh.
approximation, right? Like it takes about 10 minutes to get here. I think it's like
Oh.
tum or tom or
Tong.
something. Tum.
Tongdong or something. Something like that.
It's just it's one syllable. Anyways, obviously I didn't learn that one off
Yeah.
because I can't remember now. But when you're learning that, you know if you're writing down 10 like five sentences every day, you're also remembering all the other words you're using, and you're probably more prone to use words you just learned in those sentences. So it's also just a way you're learning grammar, but you're also learning vocab at the same time.
Hmm.
I feel like that's probably a pretty good way to do it, honestly.
I
Um,
I think it is a good way. I doesn't. Do you know if Paul uses that strategy? I can't remember.
no, I don't
No.
think Paul uses that. I think Paul has a very fixed view of what he wants to do,
Hmm.
and that is to pass topic two,
Topic two. Yeah. Right.
because that's. But at the same time, he's doing all. I haven't watched Paul a lot. I'm gonna be honest. I'm his first sub.
Yep. That's cool.
I was his like third viewer,
That's awesome.
but I don't know what Paul's strategy is now compared to earlier because he used to be very focused on learning vocabulary
Hmm.
and grammar and just learning how to talk in topic, right? And when what the way you're talking when you're the way that people like your test is going to be in topic is not how you're going to have a test in or how you're going to talk in real life.
Hmm. Right.
Because for example, the grammar for what's the technical term? Øy? The what's it called?
Oh, oh, possessive marker.
Yeah, possessive
Yes.
marker. You don't actually mostly colloquially you don't use that. That's something I didn't know until people were like, "Why are you saying like noe?" And when you use a specific possessive marker, you say instead of uy, which is weird also.
Yeah, it is weird.
Um, but they were like, just say ni, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Because you just say ni. You
Hmm.
just say ni instead of saying noe or yeah, all that stuff, right? And it's very weird for a person who's you because you would never in a topic read someone say like 네 노가 진짜 크다 커요 or something, right? 커요, which means like my brain is really big or your brain is really big, sorry.
Yeah.
Um you would never read that in a topic test because it's supposed to be written standard language, right? But at the end of the day, you're not gonna do that very much, but you're gonna talk a lot to people. And when you're talking to people, they're gonna be like, "Why are you saying that? That's
Yeah.
not how you actually speak Korean, bro."
Right. Big
Um,
differences between writing and speaking.
and,
Right.
and actually, it's something you hear if you listen to German speak or not German Korean speakers.
Yeah.
If you listen to Korean speakers, they're gonna say, for example, if you hear them speak English,
Mhm.
it's going to be reflected, right? They're going to say Denmark people, right? Because in Korean, you don't say Danish people. You don't say people of Denmark.
Mhm.
You just say Denmark people,
Mhm.
right? You say Denmark language. No, yeah, I guess you say Denmark language,
Yeah.
Denmark cool. You say Denmark blood. You don't change the form. The only time I can think of anything where they change the form is foreign words like design, right?
Mm.
Design. But then if you have a designer, it's designer, right? But if it was Korean, they wouldn't change the form. They would just add like a long form of bisaram or
Mhm.
I think like saw as well for some.
Yeah. I forget what
Again,
that.
there's a lot.
What is it
There's I think there's
called?
like
It's called like
what's
complex.
that?
I think it's called compound nouns, right? Where you're adding
Right,
nouns to other nouns to make a bigger noun. I think
right,
that's what it means. Okay, just making sure.
right.
Yeah, gotcha.
But in a lot of Korean sentences, you don't even like you don't even need to do that because it's like 한국 사람, for example, right? That's not that's not a compound noun, right? You mean like where you combine it, or do you mean when you combine it in like as still as individual nouns?
Yeah, so I mean like you take one noun. I'm trying to think of an example. Like the word for like Korean science, right? I would combine
Hmm.
Hanguk and then I would combine 과학. So Hanguk 과학, that'd be like a
Right,
compound noun. So
right,
but it's technically still two words. But yeah, that's what I meant by compound noun.
right, right.
Um
Do, talking about that, do you know about 문과 and 이과?
문과
Oh, you
no.
don't know about 문과 and 이과?
No.
There's this whole stereotype in Korea about people studying like science and people studying like arts, basically. And Igwa is science and Mungwa is arts, right? And the idea is that if you study Igwa, it's much easier to get a job. You're this very like analytical person, and you're very like I don't want to call you dead, but like you understand the stereotype, right? And then people who study Mungwa,
Mhm.
it's very hard for them to get a job. They're gonna pay a lot less,
Mhm.
but they're very nice people and stuff like that. And they like, you know,
Right.
I think you understand the stereotype.
Right, I see. Right, right. Yeah, I
And
always not aware of that. Yeah.
there's this whole stereotype about like Igwa and Mungwa. And there's like a lot of cartoons and stuff like that about it.
Hmm.
I'm actually surprised you didn't know about it.
Yeah,
Um,
I learned something new today. Damn.
I,
That's
I
yeah.
think it's maybe it's like a very university slash high school thing to think of people like that. But I've been described as an Igwa a lot. But then at the same time, it's like, are you really an Igwa if you're studying a lot of languages too? Like, because at the same time, I might be studying sciences and like programming and stuff, but at the same time, if you're also doing a lot of languages in your free time, history, geography, like
Hmm.
it's kind of a weird thing where people are put in a box.
Yeah, like
But it's just like a thing. It's not like a it's not something that they uh use very broadly, I guess, right? It's not like something the government would ever use to describe people. But yeah.
yeah. Very interesting. Thank you. Not aware of that.
Now you do. Now you know it.
Nah, I do. That's fucking. So it was like Igwa and Munhwa. I'm sorry, not Munhwa.
Yes. Yes. No,
Igwa
Munguan.
Munhwa. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank
Iwan
you.
Munguan.
Thank you. Um, we're approaching an hour on the podcast. We're gonna be wrapping up here soon. We could answer any comments or yeah, Jonas, do you have any more comments or questions in your chat?
No, I think I
We're
talked
all
about it
set.
all. But um
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like we had something else to talk about other than the
Sure. Yeah, I don't have any
yes,
comments on
Disney.
my chat.
Disney. Yeah, yeah, Disney
Disney.
songs too.
Okay.
We were, I
Yes.
mean, before the podcast started, we were, I'm not gonna say we're singing songs, but we kind of were. I'm not gonna lie, we were kind of singing songs. We are kind of singing some Mulan songs,
Mulan
you know.
songs.
I grew up with, a lot of Disney movies. I don't know about you. I grew up with a lot of Disney
Yeah,
movies.
grew up with quite a few, quite a handful.
I grew up with Toy Story
Yep.
in Norwegian because my parents used to live in Norway. So
Hmm.
I don't know the Danish version of like the songs. Like I just know the Norwegian versions, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I just know the English versions. That's kind of interesting. You learn the Norwegian versions though. That's
Yeah,
cool. Even though you don't
but only
speak
have that one.
Norwegian.
I've only have Toy Story. Only Toy
Yeah,
Story one.
that's still very cool.
We still sometimes have like Norwegian flags, I think, when my sister's birthday and stuff like that. Because my sister, I guess she was what, like 6, 7 when she moved. So
Mm,
she forgot most of it, I think, like of
okay.
Norwegian, right?
I see.
because she was not talking to anyone in Norwegian, so she forgot it, right?
Right.
Um, but I mean, we have a lot. I feel like I have more of a connection to Norway than a lot of people in Denmark, at least.
Hmm.
Obviously, if you don't know the history, there used to be this thing called Denmark Norway for about 400 years, from like the 1400s, or I guess 1392 till like 18 something something, where we used to be one kingdom. So it used to be, so just to give like a language relation to that,
Hmm.
there used to be like the Scandinavian languages. There used to be three different like North Germanic languages regions: East, which was Swedish and Danish, and West, which is Norwegian, Faroe Island, Faroan. I don't know what the fuck it's called, and Faroese, and Icelandic, right? And there used to be Gutnik, I think, which is just an island that's like isolated, and originally it used to be between Sweden and Denmark, basically. Um, those were the three major language groups, right? So you would think that Denmark, Danish, and Swedish would be the most related to each other. But then because Denmark and Norway were, like Denmark controlled Norway for 400 years, we changed the language a lot. So if I go on, for example, the Norwegian Wikipedia, I can read and understand most of the articles there,
That's
just because
awesome.
it's very similar.
That's very cool. That's like how
Yeah.
the language kind of changed over time because Denmark had such an influence on them. That's a very cool fact there, honestly.
Wow. Okay. This Norwegian person just said "fuck bokmål" in my chat, which is the closest to Danish. I'm just gonna say "fuck norsk." Fuck norsk. That's the new Norwegian thing. Basically, they were controlled by Denmark. Then we unfortunately allied with Napoleon, and he lost. And then we had to give up Norway, and then Sweden took over. And then when they like when Norway got like finally free and by themselves, they wanted to create a language that reflected how they spoke,
Mm-hmm.
but they spoke much more close to Danish in the like in the capital and stuff, and then further out they spoke more what they used to, basically. So they created like Nynorsk, which is more close to how they actually speak, basically.
Oh.
So it's like two different written standards, right, in Norway.
Oh, okay. Do you know how many speakers there are of Norway? Isn't there like 20 million? I can't even remember.
No,
It's
bro,
like
you're too American for that. No, Norway has less people than Denmark, so
10
I would
million?
say there's probably 5.2%, 5.2 population,
Oh,
5.3 million. Denmark has 5.8, and then Sweden has 10.2. Um, Sweden's obviously the bigger one in terms of population.
okay.
Um, but Denmark used to be so there's like these two different times. There's a time where Denmark was the most dominant country, and then Sweden. Because Sweden once invaded and almost took over Russia, which is very different from what happened now. I mean, they controlled Finland for a while as well, so.
Mm.
Uh, but yeah, no, Norway's like 5.2, but there's a lot of Norwegian people in the US. There's a show called Fight for Camp for No. Is that what it's called? Camp for No?
Hmm.
Fight for Norway? Camp for Norway?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Fight for Norway, I think is what it's called. No TV show. It's like Americans going back to Norway show.
That's the name of it. That's what the translation is.
I forgot what it's called. There's a show where they go back to Norway to their
Mm.
ancestors. But I can't remember what it's. But basically, they go back to Norway and they like, because there's a lot of Scandinavians
Hmm.
ancestry in America.
In
There's probably
America.
the same amount that there is in like Scandinavia,
Okay.
like people of Scandinavian ancestry. Let's see. I feel like in America, because here's the thing: if you go to the north, like I think the north, and I think more north, I think north, like South Dakota and stuff, is more Germany, But if you go to like the northeast and like stuff like that, I think it's very Scandinavian influenced. Not in general, because obviously you have a lot of people also moving as well, but also a lot of Scandinavians.
Mm.
Um, and there's like this documentary about this Danish city in yeah, there's 11 million people of Scandinavian ancestry in the U.S.
Wow, that's a lot more than I thought.
Yeah, because this is what like 20 million um, Scandinavians
Mm.
in Scandinavia.
Jeez.
Let's see. So there's yeah, so Norway is by far the biggest one because Norway is 4.6 million people. Um, and there's 5.3 million people in the country.
Mhm.
Then there's let's see, Danish is 1.45 and Sweden is 4.23 53 or something like that.
Mm.
Um, so there's a lot of Scandinavians. And it's like country and it's states like Minnesota has 1.5 million Scandinavian Americans. It's 32%
32.
of people.
Holy
Yeah.
shit.
North Dakota has 230,000 people and it's 36% Scandinavian ancestry. South Dakota's 172, it's 21%. Utah, Montana, Wisconsin, Washington, Iowa. Yeah, so it's very northern states. You don't see New Mexico. New Mexico has 2%.
Yeah, understandable.
Texas has a 1.4%. Um, let's see. Mississippi has 0.6%, you know.
Yeah, right.
How's there 641 people of Scandinavian ancestry in Puerto Rico? That's what I'm asking.
That's the big question here. Next topic, next stream topic. Boom.
We're going to Puerto Rico, boys.
Let's do it. Puerto
Oh,
Rico
it's
stream.
the show's called Alt for Norge. Everything for Norway, basically.
Everything for Norway.
Yeah, it's a show, dude. It's a
Is
show.
it
They have to
good?
eat like I haven't watched it because I'm
Yeah.
not Norwegian.
Mm. Okay.
Um, but yeah, they go there. They eat and what is it? What is fårhål? Sheephead? It's like a Norwegian dish. We don't eat in Denmark because we're not savages like that, you know. But yeah, the Norwegians gonna do what they're gonna do. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like I don't know. It's interesting to think about it, but at
Hmm.
the same time, it's like, what does Scandinavian ancestry mean? If I'm 25% Norwegian, am I Scandinavian ancestry? I guess that would count as it,
You
right?
would classify as it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, cause then I'm almost Spanish, dude. I'm like 3% Spanish, bro. So I mean,
Fuckers.
what's up?
What's
I
up?
just said it like you did, dude. I
Eh,
shouldn't have done that.
no, it's good. I like
Damn,
it.
it's almost 2 a.m. Holy shit.
Yeah, we're gonna be going here, folks. But everyone, thanks for joining us today. We got a weekly stream. If anybody wants to come by again, we do this every Saturday. The time kind of varies on Saturdays, but we're trying to figure out like a solid time. We're working out the kinks still.
I think we're doing like 11
Mm,
p.m. my time, so 11 p.m. EST,
yeah,
11 GMT plus one in EST. Sorry, continue. I'll figure it
yeah.
out. Really.
But I do appreciate everybody coming by. We also like to upload the VODs on my YouTube channel. That's YouTube, and then the username should be FryGod on there. And Jonas, I don't know if you're interested in uploading your. I mean, this is your first episode streaming on your channel. If you feel free to
Yeah,
download the VOD, maybe you want to put it on your YouTube. Go right ahead.
yeah.
Um, but
I actually, there's one thing I want to talk about real quick
sure,
before we end.
sure,
One last thing. I have these really cringy Battlefield videos on my account, dude. It's
dude.
really
Yeah,
cringy.
is it
I don't know if you know about this, but I didn't know what Spanky meant. So my name on Battlefield 3 was Spanky Potato.
Spanky
Now that
Potato?
now
That's
that sounds
funny.
hella sexual, but I didn't know what Spanky meant.
Right.
So I ran around being this 12-year-old kid who his name was Spanky Potato. I don't know what these guys thought about me, based on the name. I'm gonna be honest. Um,
Oh God. Well, I mean, hey, you got to think. Maybe the people that you were playing with were the same age as you. You know, and maybe they didn't think anything of it either. You got to.
no, No, I played with a 23-year-old Tunisian dude.
Okay,
He was hella chill.
that's cool though. 23. Well, that was
Yeah.
years ago, right? Now he's probably like 30.
Yeah, no, he's probably 30, dude. Does he have a kid?
Poggies?
He actually said happy birthday to me on Facebook.
Oh, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah,
Let's
I used to play
go.
with him a lot. But then I listened to the clip and my voice was so horrible. I don't like my voice now.
Yeah, I think you sound fine,
And the
man.
worst part is that I went in and I manually edited the audio and I pitched down my voice. And I was still talking like this.
I feel that. I understand. I understand your pain. I
It's
totally
so bad.
understand.
No, it's so bad. Oh my God.
It's the big.
I don't, but at least it's content. It's content for in 2 years.
Hmm.
In
Right.
2 years, I can show these clips and it's gonna be so funny
Yeah.
because
Right.
I actually have a lot. I have like clan highlights. I have like some cringy videos. I did like a video where I did what did I do? I did a video where I did some machinimas in Battlefield, which were actually good. But other than that, I made like this video that was I think it was Wall-E trailer, but in Battlefield, and then I recently watched it because I was pretty happy about it. I remember it being good, right? Then I go watch this video that I made like 8 years ago, and it's like 3 FPS. It is horrible. These clips are 3 FPS because I was playing this on a horrible computer,
Mm.
and I don't know what I was thinking. And here's the thing: I have another channel. I'm not gonna say what my username is because this is even more crunch. You know how there's all those like commentary channels that used to be on like YouTube that were big.
Hmm.
Well, I was like 12 and I thought it would be cool to have one. So I
Okay.
have maybe like 10 videos that have no views of me playing video games and talking on top of them. And it's so cringy. And I don't know how to find it right now because I don't want to find it.
Yeah. You don't
But
want
it's
to
out
actively
there.
search for it.
It's out there, bro. And one day I'm gonna find it. And one day I'm gonna share it. I'm gonna be like, give me 100 subs and I'll share the cringy videos, bro. All right.
Oh God.
I'm gonna. Oh wait,
Oh,
did I
I'm
find the
waiting for
channel?
that day. I can picture it now. You're gonna be like drunk in like a norebang, and then you're gonna be like, "Hey, Fry, look at this. Look what I found." I'm like, "What is this?" And I'm
Wait
like,
one second. Let me just react to it live. I can't
"Oh
show you the
man,
video. It's
yeah.
9 years old.
Oh God."
I'm speaking with a I'm speaking with a British accent, right? Here's what I'm saying. I'm saying, hey guys, Jonas here, playing
Oh
some. Is it
no.
Bullet Run? It's Bullet Run. Oh, that's the game. All right. I guess it's Bullet Run.
Bullet Run, yes.
Oh my god, I'm doing a fucking British accent, mate. Why am I doing a British accent? Oh no, this is not fucking good. All right.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, you can hear it? No. Oh my god, they can hear it on my stream.
Oh
Oh
no.
no. Oh
Oh no.
no.
Cut the stream
Oh
now.
no!
Oh my
Oh
God.
no! Yo, can we act like this didn't happen? I'm not gonna. I wasn't supposed to share these videos for 10 years,
Yeah.
and now I just shared them.
It's like you're opening up a
Can we
time
not? Can we
capsule.
act like this didn't happen? Like,
Yeah.
can I just like? Oh god!
Oh no.
Oh no! It's stuck in my. Oh no!
Well,
Oh shit!
on
All
that
right.
note,
Well, someday it's gonna be shared.
we're gonna make this happen. Someone go on to Jonas's channel and clip that though, by the way. Clip that. That's content.
No, 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 no.
I'm just kidding. Everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks for coming out. Do appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for watching, guys.
Yeah. Like I said, every Saturday we have one of these talk shows. It's a lot of fun. We got some fun
Shows.
stuff coming
Holy
up.
shit, dude! You're
Yeah.
making it sound pro like that.
I'm trying to hype up
Right,
the
right.
crowd here,
It's
you
a
know.
talk show. Next week we have Tom Holland.
We got Tom Holland coming on. He's gonna be talking with
Yeah,
us. A lot of great stuff coming up, gentlemen. So
yeah. And then we have Jack Black, and then we have Elon Musk. So let's look forward to
um
you know.
so let's actually work out a time though, right, Chaff? So you're asking about what time you think it's gonna be around. So I'm trying to think, Jonas, what
18:17 Eastern time, I think.
18,
Like
17?
maybe 16:18, 16:18, I think.
Yes.
I think that's a good time
That is
to
a
do it. That's what we
prime
usually do.
time. That's what we usually do. Jeff, I'll message you later about those details. But
Oh my God. Someone in my chat is by and said it almost turned them on, but then it was a boy. Guess my.
oh my god.
Oh no, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. It's
Um,
not a fake. Oh, it's not a fake British accent. I'm actually, I'm like 2% Spanish, and in Spain there's a place called Gibraltar. All right, and they speak with this accent. So it's actually, they're writing to me in Danish that I'm Danish, which is factually correct. But actually, before we end, this
yes.
one last thing. Do you see this? Wait, I need to go on OBS real quick to see if you can see it. Do you see this? Oh, you can't see it. Wait, what?
You're just like holding your finger in a weird position.
Do you
Oh,
see my
yeah.
injury?
What happened?
I was grating cheese and my microplane slipped and I just grated my fucking finger, dude.
Oh. No, thank you.
I just grated the skin off my finger.
Oh.
Ugh, and it's just been hurting for a couple days, and I think that's why I'm bad at Dota now. So,
Yeah. Just rest up. I'm sure you'll be better at Dota when your injury's better.
right.
Yeah.
And I'll shave as well for next time, you
Shave,
know?
maybe shave, maybe
Yeah.
you might do a little better as well.
Yeah, of course. That's the number one factor in playing Dota. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, thanks guys for watching.
Yes, thanks for coming by, guys.
uh,
I'm gonna raid and stuff like that. But yeah,
You're
see you
raiding
guys.
Pog.
I'm gonna raid my friend. Yeah.
Wait, who are you rating?
I'm raiding Pogway. He's actually a Korean streamer. He's streaming one of the Korean games right now. So
Sounds Pog.
yeah, pretty excited. But yes, thanks for coming
Nice.
by, guys. We'll see you next time on the next Babocast. But until then, guys, stay awesome. We will see you later. Bye bye.
Thank you guys.